opinion or their strategies of the company.
Great, great. Okay, so in regards to that same topic also, and I know we've discussed and we've spoken about the silos because of the collaboration and how to create a successful collaboration. So when it comes to the silos, when it comes to breaking down the silos, I also have a few questions that would also help everyone understand from your own perspectives and experiences, how can we break down silos? So first of all, what causes the silos mentality in the companies, and how can you break it down after understanding this silos mentality?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Right, what caused the silos? Well, I have to say competition. More or less, every employee in every department would like to shine and take the credit for what they do, which is not bad. Competition is healthy, it's good. But it has to be within a team spirit. If you're competing with each other and you're one team, then you're losing all. And this is one of the major obstacles that any organization have nowadays, but they never speak about it. So if we change the behavior of every caliber in every organization and incentivize them that if you all as a team work with the other departments to achieve, you'll achieve more results, you'll shine even more, and you'll be incentivized. So changing the culture from silo competitor inside the same organization or inside the same company into working in a team to achieve a bigger goal, then this would be the ultimate key to breaking the silos. Okay, what was the other question?
So do you think it's related to leadership?
Yes, and behavioral change.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, the question was what causes the silo mentality, and what is like how can we break down the silo? So you pretty much covered both. Yes.
Let me expand the idea a little bit because I know we covered the reasons, but reflecting on the situation right now, there is a dimension of physical silos and disconnection of engagement with people working from home and people managing multiple sites. Probably you're in a time zone that is different from your other office. For example, I manage teams out of the region, and my morning is their night, and the other way around. So you need to find a way to communicate not only with your direct reports, but with your peer departments. This could be one of the key challenges arising post-pandemic, by the way. And I think what the best practice is telling us is make sure you have something on your calendar where all the relevant stakeholders there. One other thing you would see for the new hires. The new hires are actually coming in and working from home without seeing any of their existing colleagues. Hopefully with the vaccination this will change, but there are programs right now that big companies, Fortune 500 companies are making to actually have the right onboarding process, have the right introduction, the right cadence, and the right governance, regardless to the time zone. And yeah, I think that's one of the things that are happening.
Well, adding to this, طبعا, I would love to see people seeing what's behind the whole of their organizations. What we always see or prediction that people working in a very close circle, he can find or know the organization or objectives. حابس نفسه بإدارة واحدة, and that's it. If we succeed to bring them behind this wall and see what's the other teams working through cross-functions team training or something like that, like Yasmin inside, I think it will be easy to shrink the silos between the departments.
Definitely, and based on research also, one of the very, very important things that would help actually breaking down the silos is incentivizing the collaboration. So what do you think about this specifically? Like having this, as you said, coming from the culture, from the leadership and the management culture, incentivizing the collaboration, pushing actually the different teams into like having their own mentality of going into that direction because there is an incentive for that.
Well, I agree 100% with what you said, Mahmoud, and not only the incentives. So the idea is a little bit tricky. We have to personalize the incentive. So giving them an incentive that they're not interested in will not do anything. Giving a big incentive that they will never be able to get will not do anything. So it's the idea of mixing the emotional intelligence with the personalization and the incentive, and adding on top the appraisal and the performance. So it has to be, KPIs for winning, KPIs for losing. So they have to understand the consequences of the deliverables and the achievements they do, or the consequences of the failure. And both needs to be loud and clear and communicated, so that they're incentivized emotionally, that they go and do the extra mile to deliver more than expected from them. So that's the tricky part.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think there's one question I think most of you are hiring managers, you're probably asking in your interviews. Give me an example of a situation where you showed great collaboration with another department or another team where you had a challenge. Just to understand what kind of category you're getting. For me, it's incentivizing collaboration is key, and specifically going beyond the departmental boundaries. Again, looking at the culture, it's the idea of the culture. If you have a team that is actually staying on an island by themselves, and they try to reach out and nobody's hearing them, this would actually hurt the company, and it will become negative, and it will increase. So if you incentivize the opposite practice of not the best team, because everybody's getting incentivized on their performance individually, but the best collaborating team is definitely helping pushing things forward.
Well, I think that the HR members will be very happy with the idea of Yasmin for giving the incentive as emotional. And we'll think twice about your idea for giving them incentive about the team, not an individual basis. However, yeah, I do agree with you.
We're already getting incentivized at the end of the year as individuals, and even as teams, as best team. This is tradition. But building on what is being saying, what I don't see a lot in companies and practices, they don't reward collaboration.
Yes.
Okay, so we've actually been speaking about the collaboration and speaking about also like the silos and how to break it down, but we did not relate this actually to the customer. And this leads us into the customer centricity part, which is definitely a mentality that should be there now within all different kinds of businesses and everything. Because simply a great customer experience is not just a team sport, it's actually across team sport. It's actually about the collaboration between teams, and with teams having the customer centricity mentality and everything, this will definitely lead into a great customer experience. And this also requires a huge and a wide commitment from the companies. So a question here also related to this specific topic. What would be the steps that a company needs to take to be able to create a customer-centric organization, in which also putting in consideration that every team member needs to play an essential role in this to provide an exceptional customer experience?
Okay. So there are a lot of steps to do. First step is there is a terminology that I'm very fond of, and it was one of my previous roles as Global Head of Innovation and Community and Programs at Orange Business Services, is that we co-innovate with the customer. Is any of the audience familiar with the term co-innovate with the customer? Have you heard it before? No. Okay, let me explain briefly what is co-innovation with the customer. Understanding the customer needs and coming up with a protocol that serves the customer need without the customer recognize it. So I'm proactively acting as his trusted advisor, saying, sir, you're in this situation. I know you're asking for CRM or ERP, but this is not what you actually need. So I pitch on top of what he wants in his brain into what he really needs. Not out of extra ROI revenue or stuff, but out of being his trusted advisor. This is the first step. By doing that, the customer will have more trust in the calibers of the team and in the organization. Then, this brings us to topic number 2, which is the co-innovation with the customer, which is the second step of being his trusted advisor. Then I innovate, I come up with a brand solution out of my own products and services tailored for the customer that I don't really sell off the shelf. So after I advise him of what he really needs, I tailor a solution or service for him. And then I do a design thinking workshop with the customer calibers and the team, different departments. I enroll all the departments in to be part of the decision making, and we build together a protocol on how to tailor this solution for the customer and what are the challenges that this solution will solve, and then we customize it and tailor it and do it for him. That's the ultimate level of innovation. So making the customer part of the decision making, not only to sell and increase revenue to, but to become his trusted advisor. I think that's the solution to your question.
Yeah, great stuff. I think my Amazon friend would be happy if I quote Jeff Bezos in Amazon's meeting. He's always saying, leave an empty seat, and this empty seat represents the customer. Even if we don't have the customer under the same roof, somebody or the product owner would need to speak from the eyes of the customer. For me, the steps would be on 2 levels. One, from leadership perspective, how the leaders of the organization, starting the CEO, the ExCo, and so on, are leading by example. And one of the great practices was every week or every 2 weeks, the CEO would probably shadow one of the frontline people, or probably take a complaint of a customer and sends everybody around in the company about this interaction, whether it's great or whether it needs improving. It just gives this power to everyone in the organization that the CEO or the senior director of customer operations or technology or whatever is looking at these level of interactions. So leading by example is one thing. The second thing is the structure. And from best practice back in Vodafone, an agile structure. Agility is really important. What is the customer need? The customer would want to be served fast. They wouldn't want to wait for so long. So if you're coming up with a product or a service, you don't need to spend a year until you come up with it at the speed of light. So the agile methodology allows you to deliver on sprints every 3 months, every 6 months, and then you add up until you reach the final number. Building on the previous idea of co-innovation, it's what we had back then is the design thinking and the digital labs, where you bring everybody from the organization in the same team, or with the agile language, it's the same squad. You have someone from technology, someone from sales, someone from customer care, and a product owner, and you have a Scrum Master who oversees everything, so even silos wouldn't happen in the team. And then with daily stand-ups, with daily sprints, you'd be able to deliver, experiment, and reach a prototype through design thinking and methodology, where you actually test and deliver to life.
Well, adding to those steps, if we take the financial sectors or financial industry as an example, like the banks in Egypt or so, we always hear about spreading the customer voice or collecting the customer voice through interacting SMSs or surveys and so on from these options. However, we don't know who from the department who are looking at the outcome or the feedback coming from the customers. Maybe the complaint department, customer experience, product manager, and that's it. Still have a very wide back office department. They didn't know what our customers say. They would rather change their performance or change their way of working to achieve or serve the customers in a very better time. I think it's a very important point because we always facing in the large organizations who we consider it as a part of the isolated between departments.
Definitely, I completely agree. And in regards to that specific point, I'd like to ask you, what do you think are the right tools that can be used for collaboration and for getting the customer voice and everything from your own perspective also? I'd love to hear that from the different perspectives also based on the industries. What would be the right collaboration tool? So for example, you mentioned SMS as a communication and the surveys through different channels. But that gives you, as you said, the first step. For the second step, what would be the tools?
Well, if we back to the first question when I mentioned about quality committee or customer experience committee, this is part of their job is to spread awareness between all the departments. For example, definitely we'll find back office department to have a common project with a front office that's dealing with customers. This is a very good timing to have collaboration between them and get them in a one workshop to show how your work affected the front lines. This is the best one. Also, we can spread through communications between internal communication through emails or workshops. However, I believe that getting the benefits from what you are doing and its reflection of the customer is the best way to achieve these hard equations.
And from the transportation perspective?
I think when you look into these people are people, whether they're actually part of tech like Uber or banking, you're managing people, so the human needs are the same. So I think ideally there has to be this platform, internal platform that connects everybody in the company, where you can post and create the right level of engagement with everyone, keep them informed, and actually up to date with what's happening. So the old traditional email way, I don't think it's the best way of communication. We've seen tools recently coming up like Slack or Zoom or even Workspace by Facebook, Workday by Facebook, not Workday, Workspace by Facebook, where it allows actually people to have their own internal version of their social media like Facebook. Imagine that you post a video, you talk to your department, and everybody goes to like it, to share it, and leave you a comment. It's great.
Yes, great. And we've had our own personal talk before the panel, and you mentioned that you're actually digitizing everything, and
exactly.
So I'd love to also hear your own opinion in that regards, like regarding the tools and what are the tools that can be used there.
Okay, that's one of the things that I'm very fond of and I have passion in. So, tools. Personalizing the tools. Again, the tricky part is we have to personalize the engagement, make it interesting. There has been a study over 15 years by Gartner said that the most used tools in communication when it comes to people, it's the social media. So there has been some thoughts that's 15 years ago about why don't we convert the social media to a network to be used by enterprise. And there has been a technology that has been raised starting from America called the enterprise social networks. Is anyone familiar with the terminology? The enterprise social networks. Okay. It's a combination of the features which gives you a personalized communication in a way that will benefit the business. So it's a portal that can be used internally or externally with a customer, private, public, or private, public. And you can tailor it, you can design it, you can add modules of communication, of integration with your own CRM, with your own ERP, with your own employees, dashboard tracking system, you know when each employee logged in, what they delivered during the day, how they communicated with other teams, and even you can add the project management and HR and training module and induction training for the newcomers inside. So this technology, I've been studying it for 9 years now, very fond of it, and I launched my company 4 years ago delivering such services, which is breaking the silos in a digital transformation way. So again, the triangle of business: employees, customers, services, and in the heart, communication. The power of the technology, and again, we are in a transformation summit, we have to make use of the technology and assign which technology solves what issue. So when you think about the main blocking point of doing any business effectively, either between employees and each other, or between customers and employees, is the communication. So you have to find an equation that provides the audio and video feature, and the messaging, and the like and follow and share, and in the same time, the business value proposition and integration of the SharePoint and ERP and CRM in a way that the customer will feel personal, yet professional, and can grab the attention of any employee in any department 24/7 to answer his message directly without having to fly to his office or without having to schedule a meeting and wait for 2 weeks until he's free. So the utilization of the technology in the market, and it started with America, it should be cascaded across the globe, which is the tailoring of the technology of the enterprise social networks, which is converting the social media into a social network, connecting people and customers, and that's the added layer on top, delivering the services to meet the customer needs in a completely digital agnostic platform, white labeled by the customer name, either use it public for the audience on Google, or use it privately to communicate with the customer, or intranet privately to communicate with the employees. So this is one of the things I'm really passionate about, and this to me is the top tool for that.
Actually, thanks a lot for the great panel discussion and the great experience that you have shared. I hope actually everyone from the audience managed to take advantage of having great calibers, experienced calibers like you. And it was a pleasure to me, of course, and looking forward to collaborating and getting into cooperating with you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.